When people ask, is Linux the right choice for you? What they're really asking is something deeper. They're not just comparing operating systems. They're questioning their habits, their workflow, their comfort zone, and sometimes even their identity as a computer user. Choosing an operating system isn't like choosing a wallpaper. It shapes how you interact with your machine every single day. It determines what software you use, how you install programs, how your system updates, how much control you have, and how much friction you're willing to tolerate. So let's slow down and approach this honestly. Linux is powerful. Linux is flexible. Linux is free and open source, but Linux is not magic. It's not automatically better for everyone, and it's not automatically worse either. The real answer depends entirely on who you are, what you do with your computer, and what kind of experience you expect. First, we need to understand what Linux actually is. At its core is the Linux kernel, originally created by Linus Torvalds in 1991. Around that kernel, communities and companies have built distributions, often called distros. These include Ubuntu, Fedora, Debian, Arch Linux, Linux Mint, OpenSUSE, and many others. Each distro packages the Linux kernel with desktop environments, software managers, system tools, and design philosophies. So when someone says they use Linux, that could mean dozens of different experiences. That flexibility is both Linux's greatest strength and its biggest source of confusion. If you're coming from Windows or macOS, your first impression of Linux may depend heavily on which distribution you choose. Some, like Linux Mint or Ubuntu, aim to feel familiar and user-friendly. Others, like Arch Linux, are designed for users who want to build their system from the ground up. The spectrum is wide. So let's start with the most common reason people consider Linux: control. Linux gives you more control over your system than Windows or macOS. You can customize nearly everything. You can change your desktop environment entirely. You can tweak system behavior. You can remove components you don't like. There's no forced advertising baked into the system. No pre-installed bloatware from manufacturers. No mandatory cloud account requirement in most distributions. If you value autonomy and customization, Linux can feel liberating. But with control comes responsibility. Linux expects you to make decisions. It assumes you might want to understand how things work. When something breaks, the system won't always hold your hand. Sometimes you'll need to search forums. Sometimes you'll need to use the terminal. And while modern Linux distributions have become much more beginner-friendly, they still reward curiosity and patience. So ask yourself, do you enjoy learning how your tools work? Or do you prefer something that just works out of the box? Another major factor is software compatibility. If your workflow depends on specific proprietary applications like Adobe Photoshop, Microsoft Office with full macro compatibility, certain engineering tools, or specialized enterprise software, Linux may present challenges. While there are alternatives, they are not always identical. LibreOffice is powerful, but it's not a perfect clone of Microsoft Office. GIMP is capable, but it's not a drop-in Photoshop replacement for every professional workflow. That doesn't mean Linux can't handle professional work. Many developers, system administrators, cybersecurity professionals, scientists, and engineers rely on Linux daily. In fact, Linux dominates servers, supercomputers, and much of the cloud infrastructure. Companies like Google, Amazon, and Meta build their services on Linux-based systems. But desktop creative workflows can sometimes be more complicated. Gaming used to be one of Linux's biggest weaknesses. That has changed dramatically. With technologies like Proton from Valve, many Windows games now run on Linux through compatibility layers. The Steam Deck, which runs on a Linux-based system, has pushed game developers to consider Linux compatibility more seriously. Thousands of titles now run surprisingly well, but not everything works perfectly. Certain anti-cheat systems still cause compatibility issues. Some AA titles may require tweaking. If you're a competitive gamer who needs every new release to work flawlessly on day one, Windows may still offer fewer headaches. If you're a casual gamer or someone who enjoys tweaking settings and experimenting, Linux gaming is far better than it was even 5 years ago. Let's talk about performance. Linux is known for efficiency. Many distributions run smoothly on older hardware that struggles with newer versions of Windows. If you have a 10-year-old laptop gathering dust, installing a lightweight Linux distribution might give it new life. Linux often uses fewer system resources, which means faster boot times and snappier performance on modest hardware. That makes Linux especially attractive for students, budget-conscious users or anyone who dislikes planned obsolescence. Security is another frequently cited advantage. Linux benefits from its open-source model, where code is publicly visible and reviewed by a global community. Vulnerabilities are often patched quickly. Malware targeting Linux desktops is far less common than Windows malware, partly because of market share and partly because of Linux's permission structure. Users typically operate without full administrative privileges by default, reducing damage from malicious programs. However, no operating system is invincible. Security also depends on user behavior. Installing software from random sources can still compromise your system. But overall, Linux has a strong security reputation. Privacy-conscious users often gravitate toward Linux. Most mainstream distributions do not collect telemetry in the same way proprietary systems might. You're not required to sign into a centralized corporate account. You can use your computer entirely offline if you choose. For people concerned about data harvesting, this is a major appeal. But again, Linux requires involvement. You may need to configure firewalls. You may need to choose privacy-focused browsers. The system gives you tools, but you have to decide how to use them. Now let's consider ease of use. 10 years ago, recommending Linux to non-technical users was risky. Today, that conversation is different. Modern distributions have polished installers, graphical software centers, automatic updates, and intuitive interfaces. For basic tasks like web browsing, streaming, email, and document editing, Linux can feel just as smooth as Windows or macOS. The learning curve mostly appears when you step outside mainstream tasks, or when hardware compatibility issues arise. Printers, specialized Wi-Fi adapters, or certain graphics cards may require extra configuration. While support has improved dramatically, occasional driver issues still exist. If you depend on plug-and-play simplicity and zero troubleshooting, Linux might occasionally test your patience. If you're willing to search for solutions and learn along the way, those moments can become opportunities instead of frustrations. Another dimension is philosophy. Linux embodies the open-source ethos: transparency, community collaboration, shared ownership of technology. If you believe software should be inspectable and modifiable by its users, Linux aligns strongly with that value system. But philosophy alone shouldn't drive your decision. Practical needs matter more than ideology. Consider your career goals. If you're entering software development, DevOps, cybersecurity, or data science, familiarity with Linux is extremely valuable. Many development tools are native to Linux environments. Command line proficiency is a powerful skill. Learning Linux can make you more versatile and technically confident. If your career revolves around industries tightly integrated with proprietary software ecosystems, compatibility may matter more than philosophical alignment. There's also the question of support. With Windows or macOS, you typically have centralized support channels. With Linux, support often comes from community forums, documentation pages, Reddit threads, and chat servers. The community is vast and helpful, but it requires initiative. You ask questions, you read documentation, you experiment. Some people love that empowerment. Others prefer direct customer service. Now let's talk about updates. Linux distributions generally allow you to control when and how updates occur. You're rarely forced into sudden restarts. Long-term support releases provide stability for years. Rolling release distributions provide the latest software continuously. You can choose stability or cutting edge. That flexibility contrasts with operating systems that sometimes push updates aggressively. If you dislike forced system changes, Linux may feel refreshing. But flexibility also means decisions. Stable release or rolling release. GNOME, KDE, XFCE, or something else. Snap packages or Flatpak. These choices can overwhelm newcomers. The question, is Linux right for you? Ultimately becomes a mirror. Do you want a system that prioritizes user freedom over uniform simplicity? Do you value customization over standardization? Are you willing to invest time learning something new? For students and hobbyists, Linux can be empowering and cost-effective. For developers, it can be a productivity powerhouse. For privacy advocates, it can be reassuring. For casual users who primarily browse the web and watch videos, it can work perfectly well. For people dependent on niche professional software that has no Linux support, it may introduce friction. For those who dislike troubleshooting or experimentation, it may feel inconvenient. There's also the option of dual booting or running Linux in a virtual machine. You don't have to commit fully on day one. You can test it, explore it, use it for certain tasks while keeping your existing system intact. That hybrid approach often removes fear from the equation. Linux has matured significantly, hardware support is stronger. Gaming compatibility is better, user interfaces are polished. The myth that Linux is only for programmers no longer holds. But the myth that Linux is perfect for everyone is equally inaccurate. So is Linux the right choice for you? If you crave control, value privacy, enjoy learning, and appreciate open ecosystems, the answer may very well be yes. If your workflow depends on specific proprietary software with no viable alternatives, or if you need guaranteed plug-and-play compatibility with every new device and game, you may prefer sticking with what you have. Technology should serve your needs, not your ideology. The best operating system is the one that enables you to work, create, and relax without constant friction. Linux is no longer an experimental niche. It's a serious, capable, mature desktop platform. But like any tool, its suitability depends on the person holding it. The real question isn't whether Linux is universally superior. The real question is whether its strengths align with your priorities. And only you can answer that.